Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jody Foster. I'm the Director of Communications and Information Services at the Regional District here. And today we're going to spend about the next half hour or so going over some information for the Northwest Side Road communities that were impacted by the White Rock Lake wildfire. As we've done in the past, we'll be live streaming this now, and it will be recorded as well so that you can go back to it and refer to it anytime or pass it on to your neighbors, the link. youtube.com/regional district, of course, you got here already. I'd like to start off the meeting today by acknowledging that we're gathering on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Seal Okanagan people. And that this information, generally speaking, is for residents within the Central Okanagan Regional District. We know that there are others that were impacted by the wildfire as well, and we'd encourage you to visit your governments to find out information about residents in those areas, specifically the Okanagan Indian Band Land and North Okanagan Regional District, which are nearby us. We are going to do, as we've done before, covering a number of topics that we have had kind of the highest interest in by residents in the area, water being one of them that is impacting a large number of residents in the area still. And then other things like the planning process, the supports that are available to residents still within the community, some of the services that we can provide, and also a couple of the assessments that are happening in the area. I'm going to introduce each of the speakers that are on the screen, and then they'll give the update from their areas. So we're going to start out today with Brittany Lang. She's our environmental planner with the Regional District. And Brittany, if you could you give us some details on the rebuilding process for residents that have lost homes in the area?
Yeah, thanks, Jody. And in terms of applications and what we're seeing here in our planning and inspections department, we've issued a number of demolition permits. I believe we're up to 14 demolition permits and 1 building permit related to fire damaged properties. I know we have a few more in the queue right now that have come in, and we're working again to process those as quickly as possible. So for any of those residents that haven't already made their application for a demolition permit, we do continue to encourage that you do that. It is an important sort of first step in the process, as it ensures sort of appropriate waste disposal and any remediation requirements that may be necessary prior to beginning your construction. And just a reminder that the Regional District is currently waiving the fees for demolition permits. We are also currently waiving fees for the temporary RV permits, and we've extended the temporary RV permit use, so for an RV or a trailer on the site, from 1 year to 2 years. So again, that's an application made through our inspections and planning department. We've also been hearing from a number of residents that it would be helpful to have a step-by-step guide in terms of understanding the rebuild process from start to finish. So to address this need, we're currently working on a sort of a process flow chart that residents can follow along right from that sort of demolition phase where most folks are now, through to any permitting phases and planning processes, ultimately through to the final stage of occupancy of your home. So once that process chart is complete, the information will be posted on the RDCO website. And I believe we'll also include a link to that in our recovery e-newsletter for those that have signed up to receive them. So again, I will encourage anyone, if you have any specific questions related to building, permitting, any of our processes here, please do reach out to our team here. The best way to reach us is by phone. So you could call 250-469-6227 or also send us an email. So it's just planning@rdco.com, and we'll be here to help you. Oh, you're on mute, Jody.
Oh my gosh, it was bound to happen sooner or later, right?
Yeah.
And while we're on planning topics, if we could also, will you just tell us about the foreshore assessment that will be underway shortly in the neighborhood?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do believe this was mentioned in the previous session. I wasn't here, but I know that we provided a brief update that we did receive some funding from the province to conduct a study along the foreshore of Okanagan Lake within the fire perimeter. I've also mentioned this to a number of residents that I've been in contact with directly. So this assessment is important, as it really is going to help our communities better prepare as we move forward, protecting potable water supplies and really identifying any geotechnical hazards or floodplain considerations or environmental considerations as a result of the fire. So that assessment will be completed, as I mentioned, along the shoreline of Okanagan Lake and any connecting streams near the communities of Killiney Beach and Estamon area. So we hope this will be another opportunity to help streamline the rebuilding process for residents and understanding the applicable, local and provincial government regulations that are impacting some of these properties. Rather than having individual property owners do their own assessments, this may be an opportunity to sort of streamline that for you. So over the coming weeks, definitely expect to see around 1 or 2 individuals in the area. They'll be conducting field assessments. These are qualified professionals. They will have documentation with them that supports their purpose and what their scope of work will be in the area. So that field work portion will only take about 2 or 3 days to complete, with the remaining of the work and the results anticipated by early December. So stay tuned. We'll definitely be reaching out and hopefully through our channels to ensure everyone's aware of this assessment going forward.
Great, thank you. So moving on from some planning topics into some engineering topics, we've got Travis Kendall with us. He's our manager of engineering at the regional district. And Travis, can you give us an update about what's happening with the water systems in the area and specifically with Killiney Beach water system?
Sure, Jody. Thank you. Well, since our last live stream, things have progressed. The water system assessment within Killiney Beach has been completed, and there is work underway in Killiney Beach to undertake and complete the recommendations that came from that assessment. Some of those will include additional chlorine dose throughout the water system, some very specific water quality analysis related to post-wildfire impacts, inspection of some of the reservoirs, and if necessary, some specialized cleaning or repairs following those inspections. And based on that work that's been identified through the assessment, we're not going to meet the November 1st target date to return the system to a potable standard. We are working with Interior Health and our engineering consultants to transition to a boil water advisory soon. It's not a promise, but it is something we're working towards. You will smell more chlorine in the water as we begin to work through that process. And even though that chlorine smell may be strong, it will be within the Health Canada drinking water guidelines, and it won't pose any risk to you. Our team is also working on installing a new potable fill station that'll be functional through freezing temperatures, and it's on track to be completed for the end of next week. I say this every time, and I know it's been a long time, but we do know that the do not consume advisory is frustrating. And I want to confirm again that all of the work that we're doing with Interior Health is through and for an abundance of caution to provide for the long-term health of the community. And I'm hopeful that with the assessment completed now and the work underway, again, we'll be able to go from a do not consume to a boil water advisory sometime in the near future. And from there, back to a normal potable standard. Thanks, Jody.
Thanks. And just a follow-up question. I think when you're talking about the smell of chlorine and that residents can anticipate smelling that, that would be a short-term measure to make sure that the system is good. And then after that, it would return to their sort of normal potable water. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the elevated chlorine dose will be within the Health Canada drinking water guidelines, but it will be very different from the chlorine levels that are typically there. So you'll be able to smell it. It'll be present for a few days while we ensure that that chlorine concentration gets through the entire system. And once we're comfortable that everywhere in that entire water system has that higher dose of chlorine, we can then give it a certain amount of time to make sure that if there are any biological risks within the system, those have been dealt with and neutralized, and then we will return the chlorine dose back to a normal level. So that will take some time, but we know that people will notice a difference in the chlorine in their water, and I just want to say up front, you will smell it, but it won't be harmful to you.
That's okay. All right, good. Yeah. And I wanted to just bring up as well that we've had a number of the water system users for all 3 of the regional district systems out there that have now received their billing this quarter for their water systems, and are just wanting to check that the reduction in fees was actually applied to their bills. So the answer is yes. And our finance department had given me just a little bit of more information to provide, which is that if you look at your bill, your basic fee that shows up on your bill and your consumption fee that show up on your bill are both about 1/3 of the usual cost. Your asset renewal fee and the garbage and recycling fees will have stayed the same on your utility bills, as those remained in place even though people were out of their homes. So you won't get a zero bill. There will still be a bill, but the basic fee and consumption fees have been reduced to about 1/3, and that's leaving July in and taking August and September off. And if you do need some more information, you can phone our utilities clerk, and she can help walk you through your bill compared to your other bills, and that is 250-469-6239. So that's the water billing. All right, so thanks, Travis, for the water info. We're going to go on now to Steve Shell. He's our contractor that is helping to manage the Recovery and Resiliency Office. And Steve, if you can start by telling us how we're helping residents with figuring out some of the insurance issues they've been having.
Great. Thank you, Jordy, and good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, there's been lots of work done on the insurance front, and we were able to hire an insurance advocate who assisted a number of folks with one-on-one service to better understand those insurance policies, those residential insurance policies. Last week, we finished that work with that person, and now we're moving forward with a new relationship with the Red Cross. And the Red Cross has hired some caseworkers who are available to provide that similar support if that service is still needed in the community. If you want to talk to the Red Cross, they said contact the number of 1-800-863-6582 for assistance. That's 1-800-863-6582 for assistance, and they'll have caseworkers available to help you there. And in addition, we've brokered a relationship with the Insurance Bureau of Canada, who is also providing information to assist those insurance policyholders, and they can be contacted at 1-844-227-5422. And they can provide that as a level of service as well. So again, the advocate did some great work for us, and now we're moving forward with the Red Cross and the Insurance Bureau of Canada to continue that service.
Good. And on the theme of supports that residents can access, can you just tell us a little bit about the caseworkers that we have hired to help residents and what their role is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned that in the last call, and we have those 2 caseworkers now gainfully employed, and they're conducting individual capacity needs assessments for residents who lost structures as the first priority. So we're going to identify the gaps, and the number have been identified so far, and then we're looking at ways that we can support those residents in recovering from that traumatic wildfire events. So right now, approximately 30% of the impacted residences have been contacted and assessments completed. For those wishing to do assessments, and those that did not require support, we acknowledge that, and we noted that to continue with our work. There are a few themes that came up, Jody, and some of those themes that came up were around, first thing, in regards to cleaning up the properties. We did have an agency called Samaritan's Purse who is providing some of that service this summer. They have since left and gone back to their base in Calgary. So we're requesting residents who have private properties to, first of all, check with your insurance company if you have insurance, and work through them to help with that cleanup support. We have also developed a relationship with the Christian Disaster Relief Program. And this is an amazing organization, I got to tell you. And they've got volunteers that are available to help clean up any damaged yards, salvage materials, or remove any damaged contents, and also conduct some minor rebuilds and repairs. So contact for that organization is at Jamie Reimer, and that's Jamie Reimer at 250-309-0190. So we'll have this information again on our website if you want to track that down as well. The second theme that we heard is in regards to mental health support. And as you know, it's been a fairly traumatic situation for a number of folks out there. and can only imagine, how difficult it is. I've been able to speak with few individuals that are struggling, and we do have some supports out there that are available through ESS, and the number to call there is 1-800-585-9559. And they have people on staff that can support and provide that level of support for you. They have counselors available to them. Or we also have support being provided through the BC Crisis Line. And you just dial BC Crisis Line. The number is 310-6789. Just 6 numbers and that's it. And they again have counselors available. The third thing we heard is that people are looking for property tax relief. So the good news is the BC Assessment Authority did mail out letters to every individual property owner that was impacted by the White Rock Lake wildfire. That letter was sent out on October the 8th. If you did not receive that letter, please contact Patricia Rantusi at 1-866-825-8322, or you can email her at patricia.rantusi@bcassessment.ca. And she'll be able to make sure that you have the right information into that assessment. So when it gets evaluated, your 2022 taxes will reflect those changes. The other theme we heard is that people need some help understanding the steps required to rebuild. So we are working on that piece, and we're developing the step-by-step process. You heard about that beforehand, so we'll work with our planning department to continue to provide that the level of detail. And then finally, the danger tree removal, it continues to be an ongoing topic, and it's been a tough one because there's so many jurisdictions involved. So the first part is that if you do have private property and you have insurance, please work through your insurance providers to find out that level of support to deal with those danger trees and managing those trees. If the trees are on BC Hydro right-of-way jurisdiction, they are the ones responsible for that work. So they would be the lead on that. Or if it's on a road right-of-way, Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. Our organization, the Regional District of the Central Okanagan, will address those trees in between. However, things are fairly complicated at times. Please don't be afraid to reach out to myself. And my email is steve.schell@rdco.com. steve.schell@rdco.com if you have any other questions about that. So those are the top 6. Jody talked 6 themes that have been coming out, and there's a lot more, but we will continue to work through those as identified by our caseworkers, and we'll deal with each one of those one-on-one to try and come up with a resolution, or at least find an organization to best provide that level of support. So I hope that helped.
It sure did, yeah. And I know for residents out there, that was lots and lots of contact information. So just don't, if you get lost in the numbers, just go back to the regional district website, rdco.com. Right off the front page, there's a search bar. You can type in recovery, you can type in White Rock Lake, and it'll take you right to the page that has all the recovery information on there. Or you can go rdco.com/recovery. And of course, as Steve was just going through that, you can see that we've actually had some service providers that have been with us and done great work, and they're done, and some new ones that are coming on. So that page does change quite regularly. So it's a good place to be able to go back to and just make sure that you know what the latest supports are that are in place. So Steve, one other one that has been of interest to people, maybe drifting off a little bit, we had a lot of fridges when we started this, and I think they're petering out, but can you just give us a little bit of an update on what is happening with solid waste in the area, regular garbage, fridges, and if there's any demolition materials?
No, absolutely. So we have an update on the Northwest Side Garbage Transfer Station. It has resumed to normal hours of operation. That took effect on October the 1st. So that's for Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that is in place right now and back to normal hours. Our bulky item collection at the transfer station to dispose of those empty fridges and freezers, unfortunately, has expired. So if you need to, if you still have some fridges or freezers that need to be disposed of, there are a couple other options available to you. The first option is to go to the Glenmore landfill, and they will accept that. The other option you have is to go to the West Side Residential Waste Disposal and Recycling Center in West Kelowna. So those are your 2 options you have right now. In terms of the concrete disposal, I know a number of you will be working through the rebuild phase and disposing of that concrete. We are confirming the site location that's closer to the community, and we'll share that information once it's finalized and provide more detail around that. So again, like Jody said, please refer to our website. We'll make sure that latest information is updated, and we'll continue to get that information out in newsletters as well. So that's the latest on that front. Thank you.
Okay, and just follow up to that to make sure that people don't get surprises places. If they're taking appliances to Glenmore Landfill and the West Side Transfer Station on Asquith Road, I'm assuming that there are regular tipping fees in place at this point since our fridge program is complete. Is that correct?
You know what? I don't have an answer to that. I assume that would be, but sorry, I can't confirm.
Okay. I think that is the case. So just so people aren't surprised when they get there, that would be a regular tipping fees will be applying at the landfill and the transfer station. And then Steve, can you just tell us what other assessments or work is happening in the area? There was a provincial risk assessment, we understand. Is there other details about assessments happening?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, as a normal occurrence after wildfires, they always get reviewed, and looking at burn intensity mapping and the function of the soil and where it's at. So the provincial government has just completed a post-wildfire natural hazard risk analysis overview reconnaissance assessment, and that was completed by geomorphologists to look at the fire itself. In that work, they reviewed 83,342 hectares in the White Rock Lake wildfire for burn severity and presence of water repellent or hydrophobic soils that may cause landslides or floods from a rain event or spring runoff. In that report, they identified 3 watersheds within the regional district jurisdiction. Those watersheds including the Clinney Beach area. In that assessment, they've confirmed that it came in between low, moderate, high as a high hazard and a high risk, where properties or structures may be impacted by sedimentation or overland flows. So in terms of now having that overview assessment detail in our hands and both the high hazard and high risk, that has resulted in some next steps being taken. And the first one is for the province to be conducting a detailed watershed assessment. And that assessment will be used to confirm specific areas of concern and various mitigation options, with a report targeted for completion around December. So again, that information will be critical to provide us in terms of direction for rebuild, and also get into the hands of any potentially impacted properties that need to be aware of those potential hazards. So again, we're doing some aggressive work on that front, working with our partners at the province of BC, with Forest Lands, Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development, and we'll continue to communicate out as that information becomes available.
Great. So I think that was pretty much it today, unless any of the speakers had anything extra that they wanted to add at this point. Seeing none. Okay, so again, just a reminder that this will be recorded and you can come back and see it later. We did also want to let you know that we're going to be doing just one more of these live streams after today. So the next one will be November the 9th. But we're finding that we're having more good exchange of information with people one-on-one as we kind of dwindle down to mostly having contact directly with residents that have lost homes. So we'll stop doing the live streams. November 9th will be the last one, but we will continue to be able to do the newsletter and information on the website. And then of course, the office is still available. So rdco.com/recovery 250-469-1111 if you want to talk to us directly. And if you go to the website, there is a place right off the front page where you can subscribe to get email updates as well for White Rock Lake wildfire recovery. Let your neighbors know about the resources so that we make sure people are getting good information, and we'll look forward to seeing you in about 2 weeks. So thanks everybody. Talk to you soon.